Alright, so now we've done 3 moves there. So we will be moving to leg curls now. Now a lot of those exercises have fatigued his quadriceps, right? So we would be doing the leg extension after this, just so that the quads get a bit of a break, okay? Now while doing this, we're aiming to do approximately 10 to 15. We'll see how it goes, okay? So first, get your shoulder blades back, nice and tight. Push your lower back into the bench, okay? Push your feet, have a firm grip, active, okay? Let's go. Yeah. One, all the way back and up, all the way back, up. Is the weight okay? Okay. 4, a bit more extension, almost locked, but not. Okay, so you want as straight as possible, feather touch. Yeah, good. A little bit more straight, almost light touch of the plates and back. So that light touch also builds a lot of control. Okay, towards the end range, you are having that much more control. How many reps is that? Okay, good. Relax. So maybe a 30-second break. Now during the rest period, what can be done is bring this down, because you don't want the hamstrings and the legs to be in an extended position, just tiring unnecessarily. Okay, you want to relax it in something which is much more a neutral position. How many more could you have done in the last one? 4 or 5. Okay, so you did 10, right? So aim for 8 to 10 again. If you want to stop at 8, no problem. Okay, ready? That's 45 seconds. Let's go. Right? One, good. So 1 second, 2 up. 1 down. How many done? Okay, so 10 done. Again, he comes out, waits for maybe another 45 seconds. Two or three. So that means he could have done 2 or 3. So he's almost reaching his threshold. Okay. So this is where you know that it's getting closer to his threshold. You back off. Okay. Don't work him to his threshold, especially if it's the first maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Okay. Should we try one of 8 now? You okay to do? Okay. Let's go. One, two. So as you can see in this whole sort of pattern that we've done, there's a bilateral exercise, there's unilateral, there's stability, there's machine, so that there's specific isolation as well. Okay. Then we'll be doing leg extensions again, which is also about isolating the quadriceps. So we've got sort of a whole mix, and for a new beginner, this becomes a good combo. Now people might sometimes say, but why are we doing isolation exercises such as hamstrings? Because that's the way you want your muscles to be strong. You want the hamstrings to be strong. Maybe as a beginner, he's not really strong enough to try a hamstring drop, what's called the Nordic curls. Maybe he's not really ready for those. And let's assume he's a beginner. Then this becomes much more simpler, easier to do. Okay, it's also more convenient. You also want to look at what's convenient and effective. Okay, you don't want to just look at what's impressive. Okay. So we'll be moving to leg curls, leg extensions next. We'll finish leg curls. Okay, now we move to calf raises. We'll be doing calf raises. Now, as a beginner, maybe if this is too hard for him, you can do it with body weight. Okay, but we'll just make Varun do it this, and let's see how he goes. Okay, so approximately 10 or maybe even 12 repetitions, okay, full range. 1 and up, 2 seconds down. As you can see, it's a nice controlled pace, and then he comes up. At the bottom, you can just hold for a split second. Hold, yeah. So hold half a second and up, yeah. So there's a clear pause. And the reason behind this is the athletes gets enough of sort of, these quick movements, okay. The stretch shortening cycle happens enough at the Achilles tendon for people who are into running movement. So when you halt for a while, it just allows the Achilles to get loaded in a stretched position and a fully extended range, okay. So it allows to get a stretch and then up, okay. Good. We'll take a 30-second break. We'll be doing the next. How many more could you have done? 8 to 10. Okay. So we can maybe try 12 now. He's okay to 8 to 10, so almost double. So we can add maybe 2 reps. Okay. All right, let's go. Nice. Good form. So you can see I'm actually not teaching him to push himself. I'm teaching him to actually control the movement. And one of the major issues in the whole culture of strength and conditioning, maybe even fitness training, the culture of just pushing. What do we see when we see videos, when we see something on social media? It's all about, me sort of being there. Come on, Varun, let's go. Come on, don't let go. This is the standard culture out there, which actually needs to be questioned. Are you training to get hurt, or are you training to improve? And do you know why you're training before you start the set? How many more could you have done now? 5. Maybe 5. So you can see his capacity is going. We need to be able to calculate. Okay, now here we don't need some machine to calculate. It's common sense. Use your brain to just know that he's now, earlier he could have done 8 to 10. Now he's saying around 5. So now you can tell him to do maybe just 10, okay, or 12. So that's almost 80% of his max. So this is where sort of good fast calculation comes in and wisdom comes in as well. Okay. We'll give him a bit longer break. This done around 3 to 4 times a week is pretty good for most people. Okay. But you have to just ensure that you have a plan for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Don't rush people through exercises just because, and don't push. Imagine what would have happened. Let's start the next set. Imagine if from the beginning, the first exercise from squats, if I pushed him in all of them, and if I said squats, come on, you can do 5 more. And then the last one, he's struggling. Second set, same. Just imagine what his state would be tomorrow. And this is the standard mistake a lot of people make during strength training, where they just push every set. You're pushing every day, every set, you're just waiting for something to snap or crack. Okay. So smart people know that consistency is more important than intensity. Okay. Intensity comes next. You have to be training regularly, and you have to be training just enough. You don't want to finish all the food in one day. You have to eat to survive over a longer period. Okay. So if that makes sense, you'll understand. Okay. So he's done now 3. How was that? Yeah. Okay. How many more could you have done at the end? Without sacrificing form and range, maybe 2 or 3. So without sacrificing form and range, maybe 2 or 3. So he's just about there at his max. Okay. Now what happens if somebody can't do, say, as many as he did? They can do body weight ones. So maybe body weight ones, just to show. Well, I'll just push this. Wait, let me try. So let's get this sort of up here. And let's assume now he has to do body weight. You can just get there. And let's assume there was a bench, and this is not even required, but just to show how it can work. For someone who's really weak, whose calves are pretty weak, we make them go down and up. Same thing. So there's no load here, obviously, right? So without load, it becomes much easier. Okay. So for a rank beginner who's never sort of done calf raises before, or even for those who've done, this becomes good now. The next progression would be, if they find this easy, single leg. Okay. It goes there. And then comes up. single leg, up. Make sure always that the shoulder and the head is above, so the weight of the body is on the calf. Okay, you don't want to lean forward. Okay. And then the other leg, you can try 5. So just to get an idea, okay, which indirectly becomes a bit of stability. If you want to make it, you can make him hold with one hand, take this off. Okay, so it's opposite hand, opposite leg. So now the stability as well along with this. So these are small changes, quick changes which can be done. Okay, but at one time only change one parameter. Okay, don't make it such that you've added weight. Let's say a beginner and you want to make it harder. You don't want to make it single leg, add weight, also make him probably start doing true eccentrics where he or she is taking 5 seconds to go down, up, 5 seconds to go down, up. Okay, or you're doing eccentrics, which are beyond maximal, where you make them sort of, go down, okay, with heavy weight and then come up with support from you. I mean, all that will be a huge succession in intensity. So you want to start one at a time. So if you've made it single leg, just keep it single leg. Don't increase the reps. Don't reduce the rest period. Okay. So now here, after the calf raise, after the hamstring curls, we have now moved on to the leg extensions. So we've worked the hamstrings, we are moving on to quadriceps. Again, because the whole aim of this particular phase of training is to one, work a bit on stability, and second is to work on muscle endurance. So from a muscle endurance point of view now, we'll be doing approximately 10 to 15 reps with good form, okay? Focusing a bit on that eccentric what we've done, right? So Varun, let's do around between 10 to 15 reps, okay? Good. The breathing pattern for any exercise would be exert, exhale. So as he pushes, exhale, in. So you can sort of emphasize this. Okay. For heavy lifts, of course, becomes very important. But for moderate ones also, if you can make it a habit, it's always good. Now again, depending on the machine, okay, some machines will have an angle, some machines are better designed, some machines suit your particular body type. Okay, but like I've said, for cardiovascular, also there is no fixed machine and there's no universal standard. Machines are made by different companies and each one has their own sort of requirements. Okay. We'll take a 30-second break there. How many more could you have done now? 5 more. So by the time he does the second set, he'll be able to do 2 more and so on. So this gives me an understanding of how he feels. I could write this down, but I could also register this. Okay, and you should also teach the athlete to register this. Okay, so that they know when sometimes you're not training them, you're busy if you're working with a team. They need to understand how their body works. Okay, so it need not be that all the sets and the repetitions have to match exactly the same. As the load sort of gets increased, as the time duration goes higher, he or she will feel tired. Okay, that's 35 seconds, maybe we can go. Now he'll feel a bit more in the quadriceps. Okay. Now Varun used to play badminton earlier competitively. Now he's not. Now he's into strength and conditioning. So he'll feel this quite a bit tomorrow, but we have to record this. So we have to make him go through this. Pretty good. You can see overall form is pretty good. He's still nice and stable. Okay. He'll definitely feel it in the quads tomorrow. But then this is how an athlete should be. And this type of programming, which is being done where we're working on endurance, this becomes pretty sufficient for the majority of athletes. Majority. Okay. Only when they've sort of mastered this and then when they move on to good amount of heavy strength training and then to power, it actually makes sense to get to power by then. But without having this base, okay, and directly jumping into sort of doing maybe box jumps and a lot of ladder work, medicine ball throws, people do this, right? Without their legs being really ready. And then we say like, oh, how are people getting injured so much? Because everyone's sometimes just trying to do something which is very fancy and looks good. The basics, it's just the basics. Stick with the basics. We have to understand that the athlete will have the plyometric element in their sport itself. Let's go one more. So this just makes sure that it's like if you look at a motor car, we are just making sure that the parts are working well. The engine oil is there, the fuel is there, and then the parts are working to move. Now, sport has speed in the sport itself, right? There's so much of speed when they move. They're moving at high pace. Threshold training is already going on. Now, when you add it in the gym, you have to ensure that that and this can match. You don't want the threshold training coming here to the point where they sort of, this becomes too much. By the time they go for playing, they can't move on court. Or the combination of two ends up giving them a muscle tear. Good. So far we've gone through squats, single leg deadlifts, we've gone to lunges. From there we move to hamstring curls, then we've done leg extensions, and then we'll be moving to calves. Okay, so that's the sequence. I will also show you one move where yesterday in the plyometric section it's been done, but just now let's assume Varun is an advanced player who plays, assume national international level. This is pretty decently fit, so we can still have the element of endurance, okay, and at the same time we have some amount of velocity there, a little bit of speed, which gives him that sort of constant bouncing movement, and at the same time some load on the quadriceps, which will help him last in sports like tennis, badminton, sports where, like I've said, there's incomplete recovery. Okay, even swimming, especially breaststroke, where they kick with power. So we can add one more, which just makes the fast twitch fibers work a little bit more, and that would be stationary jumps. So we'll be doing that set as well. Are you okay to do that? Okay, perfect. We'll be doing that. Varun has volunteered, so we'll be doing a set of jumps as well, just to give an idea. These jumps can come maybe even before the squats. Okay, so before you start your squats, you can start with 3 sets of jumps, or it can even be done after the squats. In an ideal scenario, you do power movements right in the beginning. So let's try that. Let's see how that goes. Great. So now the jumps that can be added. This is an optional exercise in your endurance phase, but we are just showing so that you can use it judiciously. You should know exactly whom to use it with. This is not for everybody. A ranked beginner who's sort of not been to the gym, this is not to be done. But if you have an athlete who's been training for a while, there was a break when they went on holiday, or sort of there was time, and now they've come back, so they've got this sort of training experience. For that type of person, this can be something which is used. Okay, so nothing but simple jumps, 20 jumps, okay, where he'll just jump up, down, easy, not maximal jumps, just constant jumps, okay, with no sound, as light as possible. Ready? Start. So that took approximately around 17, 18 seconds or so. So we're just sort of going, right from the ATP PC energy system, moving on. So again, becomes quite a simple, effective way to work the legs, get some lactic acid there, some tolerance. At the same time, the speed as well. Okay, could you feel it in the thighs? Obviously, yeah, he would feel because it's constant. How much was it on a scale of 0 to 10? How much would you rate the load on the quads? 6. So now that's a pretty safe zone. Okay, normally anything above 8, when they say that, oh, it was around 9 out of 10, you need to know, okay, maybe time to back off. Okay, so for someone who's maybe starting off, 5 to 6 is a good pace to keep in mind. Now I'll show you one more variation, especially for badminton players and for anybody who's in these bouncing movements, okay, and constant moves. One more would be, this time what you'll do is you'll go down, you'll jump, but when you land, it's 1 full rep, 1 half rep. So the second one is just from here to here, jump, here, jump. Okay, it will build a little bit more lactic acid because he doesn't get extension, the muscle doesn't stretch. Okay, so there's constant load in the lower range, and then when he comes up in the sort of outer range also, he gets movement, but it will work a bit more. Let's try. Okay, so these, of course, because it's almost 2 repetitions are like 1, there's 1 and half, and we count that as 1. Okay, so we'll do maybe 10. Okay, so let's try same sequence. Start. 1, good. 2, yeah. 3, 4. You can still be lower in the half. That's it. Good. So again, around similar time. Was this harder than the previous one? Right. And the reason is because there was no rest. In the previous one, he just jumped, went down, extended, went down into flexion, extended. Here, this flexion, flexion, extend, flexion, flexion, extend. So these are very small moves. Now, I'm not making him do single leg jumps here. Okay. What is the simple thing here? I've made him do bilateral movements. So there, I've added maybe again, if it's somebody who's an experienced athlete who after maybe 2 to 3 weeks of training, I can add this. This becomes good for sports where you just want to last. And especially those athletes who say, oh, my legs give up towards the end. Okay, why do they give up? Because they can't tolerate the lactic acid that is built, right? So this becomes a good move, and where they still have that quickness, that bounciness stays. Because you don't just want to last long, you also want to be fast along with that. So this gives you that little bit of elastic movement, okay, where you go boom, boom, bounce. It's not where you're just getting into, say, maybe something like a wall share, which is again very effective. Maybe for a ranked beginner, definitely. For somebody who's starting again, yes. But this can be something that next level where you want to keep them in the endurance phase, but also add some amount of speed, okay, at a very, very low level. So we'll do one more set, okay. This time we can now start doing maybe these side to side movements, okay, if you want to, okay, just to again for advanced athletes but who are in the endurance phase. Let's try side to side, yeah, with good form. Okay, let's go. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Super. So now if, let's assume Varun is a national level player, okay, and he's playing national level, he's been playing for years. This wouldn't be too hard for him to be doing in the endurance phase, especially after around 2 weeks. So these are the small tweaks which you can do. Okay, but again, this is not for somebody who's a ranked beginner, someone just coming for summer camps, maybe somebody who's only 12 years old and is just sort of getting into strength training. Then this would all be too much. For them, they just have to master basics, your squats, they can do wall share, they could do your single leg deadlifts, pretty safe exercise, leg curl, leg extension, pretty safe exercise, calf raises, pretty safe. This is about technique because there's landing involved, right? There's shock absorption, he needs to have the control, eccentric control. So all these patterns come in. Now, I just want to show you maybe some things which can be done for upper body stability. We've now done lower body. Upper body stability, we can make them do simple moves such as shoulder presses, but done by standing on one leg. Okay, so that becomes one way to make it harder. There could also be lunges which are done. Sometimes people use Bosu balls, which are used for maybe placing the foot and then doing a lunge. You can do that, but there you have to also understand if a Bosu ball, which is nothing but that half-shaped Swiss ball, and if that ball is there, and when he places his leg up, the range slightly changes. Okay, his hip can't travel as down. Okay, so when he's stepping on that and trying to do maybe a lunge, his hip range will be less because of the Bosu ball lifting the foot up. So these are things we need to understand. Okay, but for stability, yes, that can be done. Now, sometimes people say that, okay, an exercise like for the legs we're talking here, a pistol squat, okay, which is a single leg squat. People go down, hold, and come up. Would an athlete need that? Is it important for an athlete? The answer would be no. Okay, if they can do that pain-free, no problem, that's okay. But does every athlete have to do it? Because one can say that that's got stability because you're balancing, okay. At the same time, it's single leg, so pretty good power that's required. But a lot of times you see in the pistol squat, people go down, the knee goes far forward, okay. Suddenly at the bottom, they will bounce up from there in full flexion, okay. Back is rounded and somehow get up. So that's more a skill movement. If you can do it, if your athlete can do it, nothing wrong. If they can do it and really feel it in the quadriceps, fine. But you don't have to think that an athlete has to do pistol squats. Okay, so this is where we need to understand that some exercises are tough. It's like a one-arm push-up. Does every athlete have to do a one-arm push-up? Not necessary. If they can do a one-arm push-up, they've been doing from childhood, fair enough. Because the whole dynamics changes. The moment you do a one-arm push-up, okay, how low you go. If you are going to go down and let's say in a one arm push up, twist your body into this, how much is your shoulder safe here in this position? And when you go down and twisting up, okay. So questions like these come. So not necessary that every movement has to be done hard just because it looks good. You have to do it if it's effective. So something like a single leg shoulder press, and we'll also be doing a single arm row. Both these I'll show as upper body stability movements. You'll just get an idea. Okay, cool. So now we'll be doing single leg shoulder press. So variations here, okay, just for stability. We'll be doing regular shoulder press, standing on one foot, simple. Okay, so let's try. Okay, so this becomes a very simple variation. He does this, what's happening? He's a bit unstable. Okay, so that's where we are working on some form of stability. You can use different variations here, either straight, out, that's your choice. Okay, now the other variation would be doing single leg. Okay, so you can do opposite leg, opposite arm. Generally that works a bit better. Okay, yeah, so this leg is now stable, that leg is the one which is pushing. So you can think of it as if you're throwing a punch. Force comes from this, transfers to the other arm. Okay, or even a serve in tennis. Great, you can change now other side. You can, for variation, you can even do same leg, same side. So it depends, but main thing is balancing. Now another way would be standing on a bozu ball, okay, which is that half curve ball. But if you're doing a bozu ball, which is the other way around, again safety becomes a concern. You don't want to be standing on that, doing dumbbells. If you fall, those dumbbells fall on the student's body, again a high risk. Good. Now same thing you can see can be applied to so many exercises. You can do bicep curls the same way. Can you do just a few reps? So again, a bicep curl can be made something which just has now lesser ground contact area because only 1 foot. So again, he has to stabilize more. Okay. Same thing can be done now where he does it with one arm. Okay. So right, left leg down, yes, and there he does a curl. Okay. So these are very simple ways to add changes, but you should be aware in your program when you do these changes. Okay. Now same can be done with bent over rows. Okay, so first you can do double leg, double arm. You can do it sideways, so one can see proper. Okay, so there he is. Maybe still lower, here. There you go. So it's a nice range, right? Now you can do the same with one leg, and this of course is a lot harder than standing because his body is bent. So just slightly up, foot up and go. Much harder, a little bit more load on the lower back with this. Okay, relax. Now you can try single arm. Okay, so you can pass this. So opposite leg, yeah, a lot harder. But again, you want to really challenge the person, experienced person can work on this. So this is the area working. Good, relax. Okay, between doing stability, single arm, and between doing double arm, okay, one can use the single arm bent over row on a bench as the intermediate lift because it's still single sided, but there's a lot more stability because your knee is on the bench, your arms on the bench, and you do. So that becomes one variation which can be added as well. But by now we have got the idea of majority of the lifts. Okay, we can also do something for the core which can be similar, where stability can be added. And how do we do that? Is, let's say, a plank, an exercise like a plank, which in itself is great for stability. But only thing is that there's 4 points of contact, right? The elbow, foot, and foot. How do you add some stability in that? You take 1 point off. So we'll show that. So if you can just, Varun, get into a plank position. So there he is. Okay. So contract your glutes. Okay. There. So now he's already feeling it in the abs right here. And I normally sometimes when athletes are working, just gently kick just so that you're aware that they keep it tight. They're also aware when you walk around. No? So these are small cues. Don't kick them so hard that they get injured. But yes, you can do. Now how to make it slightly harder? You can just lift 1 foot off. Okay. Just one off. Yeah, gently. 2 seconds. Down. Now up. Now what should not happen is while lifting, this should not happen. Then there's no point. You want to be flat. Down, change again. Here, So these become sort of next level change. Now these become hard moves where he stays flat. Now we'll just try arm. It's going to be very hard. I'm going to hold. We'll just demonstrate. So one arm will just come off slightly. Okay, there, without turning much, then the other. Okay, once again, one more. Okay, relax. So this becomes a variation, a very basic exercise. As plank itself, there are so many choices that can be done. Okay, and these variations can really help you squeeze out the benefit of every exercise to the max. A lot of times people progress too quick. Okay, they just jump the gun. They just want to do more, something new. You know, like what's new in the market? Market mein naya kya hai? You know, but that's not what you want. You want to really get the benefit of every exercise out, then move. And I often use this example to explain that in classical music, in traditional music, many of the top sort of masters out there, the teachers, the gurus, what they do is they don't let a person progress to the next level unless they have mastered those basics, that one step at a time, and it can sometimes take months. Okay, and once they master, then they allow them to learn the next. So then what happens when you move to the next, you've learned everything that can be used, and from there you move to the next level. Then you master that, move to the next. So each time you're really becoming a master and moving and becoming a greater master, and so on, so forth. Same goes with exercise. Master. Now, for example, this example that I showed of the plank. Let's say Varun or any athlete can't do maybe more than 30 seconds. Okay, at 30 itself, it's tough. Now, it would be very unwise of me to then tell him to do this, because he firstly cannot do 1 minute or 1.5 itself properly. So you have to be able to do an X amount of time. For plank, I would say maybe before a single side is tried, at least 90 seconds, which is 1.5, or maybe even 2 minutes with good form. Okay, then you can try this. So these were just variations to show, but don't get into exercises and movements to make them hard without building that base endurance. Okay, so stability, endurance, extremely important when you start off an athlete's program. Which one is more important? Both are important. Okay, but don't jump the gun and make it so hard that sometimes unknowingly you might be actually doing strength work. And how, you might say, how will I do strength work in endurance? I'll give an example. Now, by the third set, when Varun was doing all the exercises, and if it comes to a point that he is so tired that he cannot do somewhere more than 3 reps, what is the rep range where we are training then? It is still going to be a maximal effort set there. And at that moment in time, for his level, we are actually doing strength training. If we have reduced the amount of repetitions for a particular exercise. So this is what we have to understand, that sometimes in the third set, if the person is not able to do that many repetitions, okay, maybe around 8 minimum or 10 and so on, reduce the weight. That's another tip. Okay, you don't have to do the third set with the same weight, and especially with bad form. Okay, make sure that the weight goes down, but they're able to complete the reps, because we are working on endurance. We want them to do an X amount of repetitions before we think of anything else. So this becomes again in planning, okay, about laying out your program, making it effective in a real world situation. See, we can have all the lectures in the world which can be done in a classroom. Strength and conditioning is done in places like this, and you have to be knowing stuff here, and you have to be able to get it out and put it into practice. So when you have all the theory and all the techniques ready, knowing, you are able to then apply it to the sport in a fast way. The whole base sort of thing that it comes down to is that in sport you have to think quick, and same goes with strength and conditioning as well. If an exercise you think that, oh, this is hard for that person, quickly you should know how to regress. And if it's becoming easy, you should have a plan quick to progress. How much, when, why, all these answers you should have. That's where knowledge comes in. So hope you've listened to all the other lectures as well to know the base level of knowledge that is needed, and then creating effective programs. Thank you.